My mom moved in her new husband and hid kid, then sent me to grandparents. Years later, tried to take my house. I was 12 when my mom started dating Greg. He seemed nice enough at first, brought flowers, took us to movies, acted like he cared about being a stepdad. They got married 6 months later in this quick courthouse ceremony. I wasn't even invited. My mom said it was just for adults. That should have been my first clue. A week after the wedding, Greg moved into our apartment with all his stuff. But here's the weird part. He also brought this kid named Tyler, who was maybe 8 or 9 years old. My mom introduced him as Greg's nephew, who was staying with us temporarily. Tyler had his own room, his own stuff, acted like he lived there permanently. But whenever I asked questions, my mom would get annoyed and tell me to mind my business. Tyler called Greg dad when my mom wasn't around. I heard him do it multiple times. But when I mentioned it to my mom, she said I was making things up and needed to stop causing problems. 2 months later, my mom sat me down and said I was going to live with my grandparents for a while. She said their house was closer to a better school district and I'd have more opportunities there. I cried and begged to stay, but she'd already packed my stuff. My grandparents lived 3 hours away in a tiny rural town. They were sweet people, but I missed my friends, my school, everything. My mom barely called, maybe once a month if I was lucky. When I'd asked to visit, she always had an excuse. Greg's family was in town, they were remodeling, Tyler was sick, it was always something. I spent my entire teenage years at my grandparents' house feeling like I'd been thrown away. My mom showed up for my high school graduation but left right after the ceremony, didn't even stay for pictures. My grandparents helped me apply to community college and I worked part-time at a grocery store to save money. When I was 20, my grandpa died and left me his house in his will. It wasn't fancy, just a small 3-bedroom ranch, but it was paid off in mine. My grandma had already moved into a nursing home and said she wanted me to have it. That house saved my life. I finished my degree, got a job as a dental hygienist, and finally had stability. For 8 years, I didn't hear from my mom except a random text on my birthday. Then last month, she showed up at my door with Greg and Tyler. Tyler was like 17 now, almost an adult. My mom hugged me like we were close and said she missed me so much. I was too shocked to react. She walked right into my house looking around like she was inspecting it, asked how many bedrooms I had and if the basement was finished. I told her 3 bedrooms, and no, the basement was just storage. She smiled and said, perfect, that'll work great. I asked what she meant, and that's when she dropped the bomb. Greg lost his job 6 months ago, and they got evicted from their apartment. They'd been staying with friends but needed somewhere more permanent. She said I had all this extra space, and it only made sense for family to help each other out. I just stared at her. This woman who sent me away at 12, who barely spoke to me for over a decade, was asking to move into my house. I said no. My mom's face changed completely. She started crying, saying I was selfish and heartless, that she sacrificed everything raising me as a single mom, that I owed her for all those years. Greg jumped in, saying it would only be temporary, maybe 6 months tops. Tyler just stood there looking uncomfortable. I told them they needed to leave. My mom got nasty then, started screaming about how my grandpa's house should have gone to her, not me, that I manipulated 2 old people into cutting her out of the will, that she was going to call a lawyer and take what was rightfully hers. I pulled out my phone and showed her the will. My grandpa had written a whole paragraph explaining exactly why he left the house to me. He said I was the only family member who actually cared about him and grandma in their final years, that my mom abandoned her own daughter and didn't deserve anything from his estate. My mom went silent reading those words. Then she tried a different approach, got all quiet and sad, saying she made mistakes but she was still my mother, that she needed me now. I asked her about Tyler, who he really was and why she lied. She finally admitted Tyler was Greg's son from a previous relationship. She didn't want to deal with raising 2 kids, so she chose him over me, sent me away so she could play happy family with Greg's kid instead. That confession broke something in me. I told her to get out and never contact me again. She left screaming threats about suing me, taking my house, ruining my life. 2 weeks later, I got served papers. My mom actually tried to sue me, claiming I pressured my grandpa into leaving me the house. Her lawyer dropped the case after one meeting when he saw all the documentation proving my grandparents were of sound mind and made their decision freely. I haven't heard from her since. Changed my locks, blocked her number, moved on with my life. That house my grandpa left me, it's not just a house, it's proof that real family is the people who show up, not the people who share your blood.